Hi, I'm John. This is my show, An American Scheme, where I am proving that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother. So one of the big things that I say about Michael Jackson's life story is that Michael Jackson was a virgin. And the reason he was a virgin is because Diana Ross informed him when he had signed to Motown and then they had moved to Los Angeles and they were staying in Diana Ross's house. That's when Diana Ross tells Michael. So Michael's probably 11 years old, but he was like 10 when he probably moved to LA. So he's like right around that time, 10, 11 years old. Let's just say he's 11 years old, right? He's an 11-year-old kid, right? He's not actually a rock star at that time. All of the music that he's been producing with the Jackson 5, okay, well, that's around Joe Jackson. That's around his family. They're busy, they're traveling here and there. It's not like they've got all these groupies and stuff, right? So the time of Michael Jackson being in the Jackson 5 before they go to Motown, I think it's pretty safe to say that Michael's not encountering groupies at that time. They're not staying in hotels, right? They're not big stars. They're not dealing with all these groupies stuff, and Michael's just a kid. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Michael's probably a virgin up until that time, right? It's not like, okay, he's 11 years old when when I say Diana tells him the truth. So by the time he's 11 years old, he's probably still a virgin. Right? And even if he had messed around a little bit and stuff, it's not like he's been banging fucking hot bitches, been fucking all night and shit, right? That's not been happening. That stuff's not happened and stuff, right? So he has not developed any kind of his actual sexuality has not developed yet. It has not developed at that time. He's just been around with his family and doing the music and stuff. That's what he's been doing all the time. So, and his sexuality hasn't developed fully, not where he's actually having sex, He understands flirting with girls and doing stuff like that and like media stuff, but it's not banging fucking bitches. He doesn't understand sexuality. That has not developed in him yet. Okay, so when Diana Ross then tells him when he's 11 years old that he's not part of the Jackson family, that he was abandoned as a child from his real parents, Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson, and the much bigger picture of now of what Michael Jackson has to do with. And now Diana tells Michael the truth, but then Michael still remains a Jackson. He has to live with the Jacksons. He's officially a member of the Jacksons. Diana's not coming to rekindle her relationship with Michael and then to usher him back into her family. That's not what she's doing. That's not how it happened. So Michael was told by Diana, "You're my child, I love you, I'll do anything for you, everything, but you're not my child, but you got to stay over there with the Jacksons because you're, So that's what happened to Michael. So before his sexuality developed and before he had his natural experiences with being a star and dealing with the groupies, before all of that happened, he was told by Diana Ross what had happened to him. Okay? And that's what I say is that what stunted his natural progression of his natural development of what would happen in his life. And one of the things that happened there, because he realizes now he was the child of the Billie Jean groupie Diana Ross who's going after Smokey, right? And that she's a young girl. And that because they couldn't take care of him, they had to abandon the child. Michael was victimized, by this young love situation that was going on. Michael was a victim of that. So then as Michael's becoming a star, first, he's not part of the Jackson family. Okay, so he's got all these weird things of what he's dealing with. He's not part of the Jackson family. He realizes he was abandoned as a child, that he was been a victim his whole life and stuff, right? Now he's becoming a star. He's got all these groupies and stuff, but it's not interesting. He doesn't feel the need to try and have to be cool for his brothers. He's the singer of the band. He doesn't have to try and prove anything to the brothers. He's the singer of the band. He's the lead, the front man of the band. So he's not trying to prove anything to them. Then now he knows he's not a Jackson, so he doesn't have to prove anything to the Jacksons. He doesn't have to do any of that stuff. So like I said, all of those things of having to prove this stuff and trying to and trying to prove yourself to the brothers and all that stuff of all those things that would have come into play, those are the things that would have got him to have sex and to develop his natural sexuality would have progressed naturally. He would have started having sex as a teenager, having sex with groupies, getting into relationships, which means then you're talking about sex every day. So you're talking about years of sexual experiences, and that's just if he's with the girl. And who's not to say, come on, this is the stuff that's like these stupid people, these Michael Jackson fans who never had sexual experiences. It's like, dude, you don't understand. Dude, the chicks that I would date, if I wanted to go get another girl and bring her into the relationship and fuck all of them, the chicks were totally happy with that. As long as they could fuck me too, they had no problem with me fucking whoever the fuck I wanted, bringing other girls into the relationship, flirting with other chicks. They didn't have problems with that as long as I was fucking them. then so that's what I'm saying, what would happen with Michael. So just because, let's say, Michael would have gotten into serious relationships, that don't mean he's not fucking other chicks, because those chicks that he would have been hanging out with in the Hollywood scene, they would have been fucking everybody. So any chick in Hollywood who would have been dating Michael Jackson would have known he could date any girl he fucking wants. So if you want to date him at all, you're gonna if he wants to go fuck other chicks and stuff and then come back to you, then that's the way it's gonna fucking be. That's the world in which Michael Jackson would have had his life experiences, of where his development, his sexuality would have developed, and the natural progression of how things would have happened. You would see all of that stuff. You would see these experiences where you would know that Michael was fucking this chick for a couple years. You would be able to tell it in his mannerisms, the way in which he speaks, because his life experiences, it would expose itself, because if he had these life experiences, then it would show itself. And it's like, it would be so massive that you could not hide it and stuff, right? And so this is I'm going to get back to these videos. I'm going to show you this, but I want to show you this other thing, because a lot of people, you just don't get it. When I'm talking about sex and the opportunities of sex that Michael would have had, and the sex that the women that would have been coming after him, once he had sex, once he just would have developed his natural sexuality as being a part of the Jackson family, he's got all these older brothers, he's got to be trying to look cool to them, showing off with the women, trying to show the public, look at me, I'm banging all these hot bitches, I'm so cool. Like, that's all natural stuff of what would have happened. But that's not what happened in Michael Jackson's life. Something else happened, right? And so that's what I'm saying, is that progression, that natural progression of Michael Jackson, if he was part of the Jackson family, big rock star with all the groupies, the brothers are fucking everybody, you definitely see that. You see something, there's something that you would see there, but you don't see it. And this is what I'm going to try and show you, is that what I'm trying to express here is that it would have been so major and so big of something that was occurring, there would be no way not to see it. And this is the other part I want to say, is that once Michael Jackson would have started his natural sexuality progression through that development of his childhood and his teenage years, and being with the brothers and trying to be cool with them and being a star and having the groupies and once he had lived through that stuff, then that would have developed him into another thing where he's got these sexual desires and stuff, right? And once you've got those sexual desires, you just can't, it just does not stop the way that Michael did. Not when he's got all this fucking pussy coming at him, like any pussy he wants. Michael Jackson walks into a room and basically he could take any girl there, he could take that girl, take her home and fuck her. Basically, I mean, even to the biggest stars in the world, there's very few people. And if Michael Jackson had been fucking stars, then those other chicks who you would see that maybe they didn't want to date Michael Jackson, well, if Michael Jackson was banging all these other bitches, then all those big stars, they all then would have been like, no, Michael's cool, I want to fuck him, I'm going to hang out with him. So people think I'm fucking him and shit, right? But people didn't want to hang out with Michael and date him after a while, after they saw that what was happening with his relationships, because then they say, well, I don't want to date Michael because he's going to be, everybody knows he's a weirdo. He's not fucking. Everybody knew that. It was obvious as fuck. So Michael couldn't develop these relationships and have all this fucking crazy sexual experiences and shit, right? So that's the way Michael Jackson's real life would have been. And in being that, you would have seen something like this. And like, I'm going to relate that this is a drug addict. This is a guy, this is a movie called Trainspotting. And what it is he's got his dope, he's got his drugs, his heroin, he's got it shoved up his ass. That's how you got to stash it. So if you get pulled over and you get searched, the cops don't find it and shit, right? This is real world shit. This is the shit that happens to these junkies. They will do crazy fucking shit you would never even conceive that you could have possibly have had these experiences in your life. And that's what I'm saying with Michael Jackson. If he would have been having sexual experiences, the stuff of what would have come, that he would have encountered, would have been madness, relating very similar to this experience. Like what I say with the sex stuff. What would have happened with the sex? It would have been massive, and it's brutal, and it's this fucking crazy world. Very similar to the desires of a drug addict and the addictions of drug addicts and the lengths of what a drug addict will do to fulfill his needs and his desires and shit, right? So what this movie right here is, and this is what I'm showing you, this movie Trainspotting shows you how bad a junkie, what they will do for their drugs. Same thing would occur with a sex addict, somebody that had this long life of having sex and all these women. It's the same kind of thing. You would see this hardcore history of sex. It would just be brutal stuff that you're just like, holy shit, can you believe that actually happened? So That's why I'm going to show you this. This is a junkie who, he's got to take a poop. He's got the drugs in his butt. He goes and takes the poop, and then he forgets that the drugs were in his butt, and he pooped the drugs down the toilet. Now he's got to go into the toilet and go get his drugs back, right? This is the real world. This is how crazy shit really gets. That's going all the way in. And once you've gone all the way in like this, then your personality doesn't come out looking the way what Michael Jackson's personality's traits, how it ended up and how he ended up looking. You don't go all the way in. Like, that's what would have happened to Michael Jackson if he was part of the Jackson family and being a rock star and having to travel in the hotels and all the groupies around and everything of what he would have encountered through his natural life progression and development of his sexuality through his teenage years of being part of the Jackson family and being in the Jackson 5. Okay, there he goes. He's got his dope. Hell yeah. He doesn't care. He doesn't care that he's in a toilet and climbing and shit. See how joyous he was once he got his dope and shit? Because you gotta get the dope. And then you're not even aware of all the other shit. You're just not even thinking about it. See, that's like once you've been all the way in and shit, right? So this is the same as what it would be. It's like addiction. Addiction is addiction and shit, right? Addiction is addiction. So now, imagine Michael Jackson being a teenage rock star, basically, and traveling all the hotel rooms with all the girls trying to come after him and all the opportunities he would have to have sex with groupies, plus the opportunities of trying to be cool to his brothers, because his brothers are going to be like, let's get Michael, let's get him some pussy, let's get him laid. That's all this natural stuff of what would have happened. So through that development of all of those things, Michael, like I said, Michael would have been fully in. He would have had sex. Then he would have had relationships, been banging all these bitches. He would have been banging all his girlfriend. He would have been banging all her friends. He would have started with drugs and drinking. Who knows what these experiences, like I was saying, he was full in, just like the junkie. He would have been full in the toilet, fucking going after his dope and shit, right? So once you've been all in like that, there's no way that you could come to this point and that this could ever happen. This is Michael Jackson being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey, and she's about to ask him if he's a virgin. This could not have ever happened. If Michael Jackson was actually a member of the Jackson 5, done all the traveling with all the groupies, got all these older brothers who are going to be pressuring him to have sex, all of that stuff. Through that life experience of what Michael Jackson had, if he was part, and that's all it is, if he was actually a part of the Jackson family, he would have had experiences, of which, leading up to this point of the Oprah interview, Oprah never could have asked him if he was an interview. It's impossible, because there would have been well-documentation of Michael Jackson fucking all these little Hollywood starlets and fucking all their friends. The stories would have been so rampant that no question like this could have ever been asked. But it was asked. Why is it asked? Because that story about Michael Jackson being the Jacksons, it was always wrong. There was something wrong there, and Michael did not develop naturally. He didn't care about what his brothers, like trying to pressure him to have sex with girls. He didn't care about that. He didn't fall trap to that because he was the victim of Diana Ross being the fucking original Billie Jean groupie and giving her baby away. He had that to deal with, and because he was dealing with all that shit, it allowed him to step away from any of that other stuff, and he's like, I'm going to perform, but I'm not going to get involved with all those groupies and shit, right? That's what actually happened, and that's the only way it actually happens is when you hear my true story that Diana told him that she was his real mother when Michael was living in her house when he's about 11 years old.
I'm going to ask you this, and it's embarrassing for me to ask you this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Are you a virgin?
How could you ask me that question?
I just want to know. I want to know.
I'm a gentleman.
You're a gentleman.
I'm a gentleman. So I'm a gentleman.
So
I'm a gentleman, right? So, okay, so I'm a gentleman. It's like, look at, once you've been a junkie and you've went into the toilet going after your drugs and shit, right? And somebody just asks you a simple fucking question, like you're a hardcore junkie. Same thing with what I'm saying. Michael would have had hardcore sexual experiences as being part of the Jackson 5. He would have had those experiences, right? So once you've been there, once you've went into the toilet, once you've done it, once you've been like that crazy and you've had a girlfriend and fucked all her friends, once you've done that stuff, this personality trait does not exist. And why would Oprah even ask him that? It's the only reason she would even ask him that question is because she can clearly see there's some kind of personality trait here that exists. And the personality trait that exists here, in her mind, is only represented by a virgin, but she can't understand it. Nobody can understand these things because nobody could ever understand Michael was not a real Jackson. So whenever you're trying to have understanding of this stuff, your interpretation is always going to be wrong. That's why Oprah then transitioned from Michael being a virgin. She transitions that to later when she makes the video Michael Jackson After Neverland, after the Leaving Neverland, and she does the After Leaving Neverland with James Safe, Chuck, and Wade Robson the day after the Leaving Neverland came on. Oprah does that After Neverland, and she's literally straight up calling Michael Jackson one of the worst pedophile predators, of all times and shit, right? He's the master groomer. That's what she was like literally saying. She was literally putting those... Okay, so when Oprah sees that he's got this weird personality trait and she's going to call it a virgin because she doesn't know what it is. And she's like, well, are you a virgin? What is it, right? But when then he gets married and it goes on and stuff, but then what they see is he has these things with children. And then they take that trait and they say, well, you know what, that personality trait also is a personality trait that you might see in pedophiles, okay? But the pedophile, if Michael was a pedophile, you still got to remember, if he was part of the Jackson family and part of the Jackson 5 and touring in the hotel rooms and all that stuff, even if Michael Jackson was a pedophile and part of the Jackson family, well then he still would have had to try and look cool to his brothers. So when his brothers brought in girls, he would have had sex with them. He would have tried it. He would have had to try and cover up these inner feelings that he was having, to try and cover that up and not let people know who he really was. He would have had sex with these women and tried to look cool. All that stuff would have happened naturally. If naturally he was a pedophile and naturally he was a Jackson, and if naturally what we're seeing here is pedophile tendencies. Oprah first saw it as a virgin tendencies. Later on in life she saw it as pedophile tendencies, right? And I keep saying you're seeing it wrong. Your conclusions are wrong because you don't have the first base of a foundation, the proper foundation to stand on. Your whole foundation is that Michael is part of the Jackson family, raised in Gary, Indiana, that he's part of the Jackson family. That's your whole foundation is based upon that. My Michael Jackson foundation is based upon that Diana got pregnant by Smokey at 14 and gave her child away, which ended up being Michael Jackson. So Michael Jackson is abandoned by his real parents and given to the Jackson family, who now see an opportunity for connection to Motown, and that's how they start to develop it into the band, right? So that's Michael Jackson's foundation of his life experience. Now, if that's the foundation of his life experience of what he experienced, now when you look at these traits, can you see that the traits have how it holds up to what I'm saying? These traits fit the same thing of what I'm saying, but they do not fit the traits of Michael Jackson being part of the Jackson family and the Jackson 5 and being with groupies. These traits do not fit. They do not fit. the people's interpretations of what they're seeing, they're not getting it right either, because the whole premise that Michael Jackson's a Jackson, that that he was born to Catherine and Joe from Gary, the Jackson family, that whole foundation of the story is wrong. So every conclusion of which that everybody out there in the world is ever going to conclude about who Michael Jackson is, it's going to be wrong, because your foundation is wrong. Your foundation is it's completely a lie. You don't have a foundation to stand on. It's a lie. So any theory and conclusion and story that you're going to bring up and facts and evidence and all this stuff, your foundation is wrong. So the foundation is wrong. At the beginning of your story, it was wrong. So every conclusion that you're going to build off of that is going to be fake. It's going to be wrong. Wrong interpretation. So now, Michael says here, he can't answer the question, are you a virgin? Like, come on, like I said, if Michael Jackson was having sex with groupies, right? Even if he is a pedophile, he still would have had those experiences with the groupies. He would have had those experiences. He would have had a girlfriend. He would have fucked her friends. He would have done all those things. Even if he was a pedophile, he still would have had those experiences, which would have let him, at this time, when Oprah asked him, are you a virgin? He just would have laughed at her. I'm a rock star. How stupid could you be to think I'm a virgin? Do you not understand what a rock star? That means I'm touring. That means I got groupies. I'm in hotel rooms. And you're going to think I'm a virgin? Are you fucking kidding me? Right? That's what a real person would be. This question is so stupid that it's so ridiculous that the person... but Michael, he can't answer the question. He can't even just say... Come on, are you fucking kidding me? He could have laughed her ass out of the fucking building, right? I mean, it's just ridiculous. But he don't do that. I can't answer. And I can't answer. And why can't I answer? Because he's a gentleman? He said, well, I'm a gentleman. I'm a gentleman. I can't answer that. So now, we go to that thing about him being a gentleman. So now this is going to be on the Diane Sawyer interview, and they're going to show the video of him marrying Lisa Marie Presley. And first off, when you first see him with Lisa Marie Presley, look at him and Lisa Marie Presley. Let me show you here. I'll show you here. Watch.
We have some wedding video of the two of you, and I'm going to...
Okay, so look at them with their hands. This is Michael sitting with his wife, who he supposedly has been married to for over about a period of a year now, right? He supposedly has been married to her for a year, right? If he's been married to her for a year, that means he's fucked her hundreds of times. And this is his wife. And this is the guy calling himself a gentleman, which means you got to treat a woman with respect, right? All that stuff. But there he is. They can't even hold hands. That's his wife, who he's been fucking almost every day over the last year. This is the story of what they tell you. This is his wife, who he's been fucking almost every day over the last year. So, talk about hundreds of times, at least 100 times he would have had to fuck her, right? He's claiming to be a gentleman, and then he can't even he can't even hold hands. But who can he hold hands with? Oh, you put him in the video with Gavin, in the little Gavin video, and there he is he's got no problem holding hands with him.
They stayed in your bedroom?
Well, very few.
But, some have. And they say, is that really appropriate for a grown man, to be doing that? How do you respond to that?
I feel sorry for them, because that's judging someone who wants to really help people.
Okay, now you're judging. I'm judging you off of your experiences, Michael. Michael, you said you were kind of like embarrassed when Oprah asked you if you're a virgin, and you said that the reason you wouldn't answer is because you claimed to be a gentleman. Okay? But if you're a gentleman, then how come you can't hold the hands of your wife? You can't hold the hands of your wife. You can't show any affection to your wife, but you can sure as hell show affection and hold the hands of this young 12-year-old boy. Something very, very weird is going on here. And this is what I tell people. It's like, the people that say Michael's not a pedophile, I say, fuck you. I can prove that you're wrong. I'll prove that he is a pedophile. Then the people that say Michael is a pedophile, I tell them the same thing. Fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about. I'll prove that Michael's not a pedophile. Right? But I'll show people that, yeah, he does look like a pedophile. I'll show them the stuff of, yeah, he does look like a fucking pedophile. And I'm not trying to hide anything. But the actual answer, when you actually get into this stuff, the actual thing that actually answers this is that Michael's a virgin. The question that Oprah asked him, are you a virgin? Of which he never fucking answered. And he can't, there is no documentation to prove that he's ever had sex. His personality traits don't show that. Oprah never could have asked him that question. If he actually had actual sexual experiences in his life, then that personality trait of being a virgin would not have been there. So Oprah never could have asked him that question. But it did happen. And he says he's a gentleman. And we see him with his wife. Can't hold her hands, but he can hold the hands. So then that gentleman thing, that goes out the window. That whatever is happening with the relationship doesn't have anything to do with Michael Jackson being a gentleman. It does not have anything to do. It has something to do with something else that nobody could ever understand, because everybody always thinks that Michael's part of the Jackson family. That's the whole thing. You'll never understand who he is because your foundation is built around Michael being a part of the Jackson family. And that is wrong. That was a lie. And so anything that you ever think about Michael Jackson, think that you know who he is, have any understanding, you will never understand who he is. You will never understand his life. You will never understand his artwork. Nothing. It's not possible to understand who this guy is if you think that he's actually a Jackson, when that's not real. That's all there is to it. If your foundation is built around Michael Jackson being a fucking Jackson, then everything that you think is based around a lie. And that's just a simple fact and is evidence of what I can do. Your whole understanding of who Michael Jackson is was built around a lie. And every image and every thought was placed into your head to get you to think the way that they wanted you to think about him. So now this is Michael Jackson, 1995. Like I said, this is a year after he's been married to Lisa Marie, which the interview with Oprah, I believe, was in 1993. So right after Oprah asks him in 93, and then right after that he starts getting asked about the pedophile stuff, right? So instantly he jumps into a marriage. But we know it's a fake marriage because this is them. And he's saying he won't answer the stuff about him being a virgin because he's a gentleman. But if he's a gentleman, think about the reality. If Michael Jackson's a gentleman, and now he's about to get married to the granddaughter of Elvis Presley, he's about to marry the granddaughter of Elvis Presley, right? Michael Jackson, the gentleman, should have shown her a little bit of respect, something, but let's see what actually happens in this wedding that happens between them of this gentleman.
If our director, Roger Goodman, wants to roll it in, we will take you there a year ago, right?
Yes.
Just about exactly.
I look like an idiot, I can tell you that.
You don't look like an idiot. You look more like a...
Just real quick. So I look like an idiot. So what's her tape? Like I said, Michael Jackson, claiming to be a gentleman, took his wife, Lisa Marie Presley, to go and get married in this little room. Lisa Marie Presley's interpretation of that moment in history is, I look like a fucking idiot. Oh, you're a real gentleman, Michael. You really allowed Lisa to feel like elegance. Is she feeling elegant and classy and all of that stuff of what she should be feeling on her wedding day to Michael Jackson, the king of pop, and then the daughter of Elvis Presley, the granddaughter of Elvis Presley? Where's this gentleman thing that should be allowing her to experience and have this great adventure of what had occurred here? That doesn't happen. And what does she say? How does she describe her experience? I look like an idiot. I look like an idiot because she can see it's all a scam. So look at Michael, he's chewing on gum. Michael Jackson, the gentleman, is about to get married for the first time to Lisa Marie Presley. Look at the clothes that they're wearing. Is she wearing a wedding dress? Is Michael Jackson totally dressed up? Are they doing some kind of extravagant wedding? Look at him chewing on gum. While he's taking his wedding vows, he's chewing on gum. How in any world can you relate this to the explanation of him being a gentleman? Look at the room they're in. Look at the clothes they're wearing. Look at how he's acting to her and treating her. He's chewing on gum. He's a virgin. That's what it is. The problem that's always existed in him that nobody could ever understand because everybody thought he was a Jackson. That was the lie. Everything that you think you know about this guy is built around a lie from that fake foundation of what you fucking people allowed them to do to you.
So,
sitting there, like I said, when you watch that thing, like I said, again, now they just watched the video of their wedding. Still, hands in their fucking laps. He can't even fucking grab his wife's hand after they're showing the video of them getting married. What a gentleman he is. It's ridiculous. You cannot call him a gentleman in any fashion because this completely debunks it. You can't call him some dude who's been fucking bitches because this completely debunks it. Now, you could call him a pedophile until you actually understand the details and understand what had happened to him and understand that the real story of who he actually was is a virgin. And when you know that he's a virgin and he was damaged in that way, then you know that inside of him, it's not that he's acting this way because the inner trait has developed this way, like the trait of a pedophile. People are thinking the natural trait is what we're seeing here, Michael, and this is how he developed, because he's a pedophile and he developed naturally. And I'm saying, no, that is not what the fuck you're seeing here. The trait of what you're seeing here is the real trait. Only the real life experiences will develop this trait in this person. And the real life experience is that he was abandoned as a child, that he's not really a Jackson, that he was informed by Diana Ross when he's 11 years old that she was his real mother, but then that he had to go back and live with the Jacksons. That's what created this personality trait. It explains and answers every single fucking question. There's not any question out there that I can't answer. Like I said, I'll deal with every challenge. I'll deal with the people who say Michael Jackson's ladies' man, and I'll deal with the people who say Michael Jackson's a pedophile. And I prove all of them wrong. I prove everybody wrong. I prove that your story cannot hold up. Your story does not hold up. Once it gets scrutinized and you show the stuff, it doesn't hold up. Michael is not sexual in any way. There's no sexual thing going on here. That's not what's taking place. He's not a gentleman. He's not a pedophile. He is a virgin.